less than an hour away from the kickoff of Berwick Bulldogs football on Pop Radio. Streaming online at thisispopradio.com. Brought to you by
Mason's Monogramming, Overhead Door of Berwick, Mayo Funeral Home, State Farm, Sean Black and Lori Powell, First Keystone Bank, Red's Roofing, Neighbor Fence Company, Wolfie's Automotive, ND Accounting and Consulting, J-Dog Junk Removal and Hauling of Berwick, Master Tech Automotive Services, Eco First Logistics, Ken Pollock, Journey Bank, Flick Brothers Electric in Bloomsburg, Alexander GMC of Hazleton, Papa Lou's Place, The Compression Shop, Cardinal Estate Planning, Chapin Oil, and Mark Nespoli of eXp Realty.
It's time for the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio. Here is Jim Doyle.
Well, after a 24-7 season opening win at Lake Lima last Friday, the Bulldogs play their home opener tonight here at Crispin Field against the Spartans of Mid-Valley. CJ, Friday's opener was a tale of two halves. In the first half, your offense ran only 12 plays. Your team trailed at the break 7-3. The second half, your offense put 3 touchdowns on the board. What made the drastic difference offensively in half number 2?
I think it's really just, nothing changed schematically for us. It was just making sure that we took care of the football. I really thought that we were moving the ball efficiently and effectively in the first half, even in only 12 plays when we had it. We bogged down towards the goal line when we kicked our field goal, and obviously the first drive, we were driving the football, and then we had a fumble. So it was just taking care of the football. And the thing that I was the most proud of with our guys is that there was just no panic at halftime. We were talking before the show, Jim, and said that, last year the third quarter was our worst quarter of the season as we got outscored. I don't know what the numbers were, but it was pretty ugly last year in the third quarter. But our guys just stuck to the game plan. We were effective. We took care of the football. Our offensive line played great, and we were able to punch a couple touchdowns in.
Ty Wilkerson had 121 yards and 2 touchdowns, but in the first half he fumbled 3 times. He recovered 2 of them. But what, if anything, did you say to him about ball security because he had no problems in the second half?
Yeah, no, and it really wasn't anything. Once again, Ty Mears is an unbelievable football player, and, he was breaking the first tackle all night. As we went through the film, he probably had up to 15 broken tackles during that game, and so he just had to understand, and we said, listen, Ty, as you're breaking these tackles and as they're trying to gang tackle you, you just have to keep the thing high and tight. They're going to be punching at it, grabbing at it, ripping at it, and so, it's something that he didn't really see a lot of last year because he was already by the defense by the time that he got the ball. And so he showed incredible toughness mentally and physically on Friday night, just with the way that he ran the ball running downhill. Like I said, that the first guy couldn't tackle him, and usually the second or third guy had a hard time doing so as well. So it was just him getting back into the rhythm of things. He didn't participate in our scrimmage against West Grant, so it was his first essential live action of the season. So I think it just took him a little bit to get going, but we had some good stuff for him this week in practice to practice that ball security. So hopefully tonight, we win the turnover battle and we don't have any on offense.
Yeah, I don't have any data to back this up, but it seems to me a lot of fumbles occur when a running back is given extra effort.
No doubt.
And that's when they're stood up and someone else comes in.
Oh, for sure. And that's what we're trying to tell our defense as well. If you got a guy stood up and we noticed this when Scapalis was running on Friday night, he was dragging some defenders with him. We had 14 missed tackles as a team on Friday night. So that's something that we're trying to clean up as well. But when you have a running back stood up, the next guy in, you're punching at it, you're ripping at it, you're grabbing, and you can hopefully steal a takeaway doing that. So we have to understand that all other coaches are teaching their guys the same thing as well. So just to be prepared for that and to practice it during the week, and so hopefully tonight we look a little bit better with taking care of the football.
Offensively, you started that game with some strange formations. You had your quarterback under center, and then behind him, parallel to one another, there were 4, maybe 5 people, including a lineman, and then you shifted into a more conventional set. What was the purpose of that?
We just wanted to try to keep the defense on their toes so that they couldn't adjust to our unbalance. That was a formation that we had a lot of success in last year when Ty Mears broke the single season rushing record, or the single game rushing record, against Williamsport. We have 7 offensive linemen on the field. We have two fullback, tight end types, and then, Ty Mears. So it was one of those things that we wanted to be able to shift and see if they could adjust to our unbalanced. And then, coming off of that shift, when you have all those linemen down, the third play we shifted into 5 wide and an empty formation. And so just to see how they adjusted to it, see what they did. And, to Lake Lehman's credit, they did a good job in adjusting to something that they haven't seen before. But that just goes to show you that, they're a well-coached football team. And that's a team that's going to win some games this year, make it to playoffs, I believe.
Friday's season opener was the starting debut for 9th grade quarterback Brady Cleaver. You didn't ask him to do a lot. Your assessment?
Yeah, Brady did an awesome job for us. Did exactly what we asked him to do. I anticipated throwing the football a little bit more than one time, and I know that he probably wishes he could have as well, because Brady has an unbelievable arm. But, as a game manager, just making sure he got in and out of the huddle. We took no delay of game penalties. He was in command out there, and obviously, his speed is something that's going to be a game breaker for us, as he took that 63-yard run to kind of seal the deal there later in the game. And so I'm super proud of Brady, for a freshman to come out, his first varsity start. There could be a lot of nerves and emotions, but nothing really rattles the kid. I think we mentioned that on the show last week, and so we're super proud of what he did. He's going to continue to get a little bit more on his plate every week as we go on.
Well, up next, CJ will evaluate his team's defensive effort in last Friday's season opener. You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio.
Hey guys, this is Ray from Blaze Alexander, Greater Hazelton GMC on Route 93. If you're in the market for a car, we got them. I know summer's coming to an end, but the one thing that's not going to end is the great deals we have. We're selling all new cars under invoice. We have a whole bunch of used trade-ins that we are giving great deals on. And matter of fact, if you have a trade-in and you don't want it, we're buying them because we need more. I know that sounds crazy, but if you want to see what we got, jump online at blazegmhazelton.com or stop by Route 93, 508 Susquehanna Boulevard, right down the block from the Laurel Mall in Hazelton.
We've all been there, faced with a physical setback. Whether you've suffered a sports injury that takes you out of the game, or your aches and pains are keeping you from doing what you love, we all want the same thing, to get your life back. Thankfully, you can trust the region's only nationally ranked orthopedic team to help get you there. At Lehigh Valley Orthopedic Institute, we turn setbacks into comebacks, one movement at a time. Lehigh Valley Orthopedic Institute. Comebacks begin here.
Hey, hometown fans. You know Journey Bank as your trusted local bank, but did you know we're also the biggest cheerleader for our community's youth? From athletes competing under the Friday night lights, to students excelling in the classroom, to talented teen stars singing center stage, we're investing in the future of our young people. At Journey Bank, we're committed to helping our kids score big in every aspect of life. Journey Bank, where dreams are nurtured and futures are built. Journey Bank, proud supporter of our local youth.
You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio. Here with the coach of the Berwick Bulldogs is Jim Doyle.
The Spartans of Mid-Valley High School from Troop, Pennsylvania are in town tonight for the Bulldogs home opener, which the Dogs beat Lake Lehman 24-7 to open the season last Friday. The Spartans lost at Pittston area 46-9. CJ, your defense allowed Lake Lehman just 7 points in the first half, but they weren't getting third down stops, and the Black Knights, as a result, dominated time of possession. What did you do better in the second half?
I think that our guys were just true to our scheme and true to reading their keys and playing a little bit tougher. There were some times that our linebackers were out of position, and so the biggest change that we made at halftime is our linebackers coach was seeing it, Coach Sidler, and he said, man, if we move this linebacker out to just the outside shade of our defensive tackle, it's going to stop this cutback. Because what we saw that they were doing, Skipalis or Yetter, they were being very patient and just cutting out of the back door, and they were gaining positive yards. And it was also just tackling. Like I said, we missed 14 tackles, and a lot of those tackles came in the first half, so it was just staying tough, reading the belt buckle, driving our hips, driving our legs through the tackle, and just making some minor adjustments. But I think that, our guys bought into those adjustments and played a lot more physical.
You mentioned linebacker. If you follow Berwick football, you know that Gavin Galusha is a fine running back, but he was outstanding as a linebacker in that game. 10 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. So that's a good season total for some teams. So why is he so good at that position?
Gavin's just an unbelievable football player. He has a knack for the game that not many players do, and especially as a junior. He played a couple games sparingly as a middle linebacker last year and started to learn the position. He had a great game against Western Wayne in the playoffs playing linebacker against what was a dominant offensive line and running attack, and so that just helped helped his confidence over the offseason. But mentioned before, Coach Sidler does such a great job with these linebackers and reading keys and getting to spots and with tackling. And so, Galvin's just a smart football player. He's a savvy football player. And when he sees something, he goes with his speed. He runs a 4.59. He's a strong kid, a little bit undersized to play Mike, but he gets the job done. And he's ferocious. He's tenacious. He's relentless when he plays linebacker. And same with Brock Sims. They both had unbelievable games at backer, and they're going to help us a lot this season for sure.
Well, there are defensive stats that are impressive, but there are big plays, too. In that victory on Friday, just two that jump out at me. Your lead is just 10-7. Lake Lima is a 4th and 1 at their own 29. J.J. Leonard makes a big stop. Early in the fourth quarter, still a game, 4th and 3 or 26. A sack by Gabe Decker. So those are big plays.
Absolutely massive plays. And those are two guys that we look to make those plays. J.J. Leonard's a 4-year starter here on the offensive line, a 3-year starter on the defensive line. Gabe Decker led our team in tackles and sacks last year, was a captain for us last year, will be a captain again at some point for us this year. And so those are the guys that have trained so hard. And we talked about just really wanting to see the fruits of the labor of these guys pay off. And in the season opener, they did. JJ's worked so hard to make that play. Gabe's worked so hard to be in the position to make that play. And so to see those guys be the ones to do it, very deserving. And those guys welcome the moment. They welcome. There's no pressure. There's no moment too big for those guys. And when they see something, they trust themselves, their instincts, and their football knowledge, IQ, and toughness, and they just go make the play.
We talked about Brady Cleaver on offense. On defense, he's playing corner. He made one of the most remarkable plays I've seen. He was blocked, maybe clipped, but at any rate, he's on the turf. He's down. And they have a play coming his way. Looks like it has potential. And from the turf, he makes the stop.
Special kid, special player. And, we saw glimpses of that in the scrimmage, and Brady's welcome the high school football moment. I think, in the first half was Skapalis came out and he bounced it to Brady's outside, and Brady took an angle inside and made a dive and missed the tackle. And, we talked to him, hey, Brady, just be you and go be physical and go play like you know how to play. And Brady's a tough kid, physical kid. And so, when he got that second opportunity in the second half, like you just said, he was clipped from behind, he was going down, and he still took the kid out. It was a remarkable play. Brady's got a very, very bright future on both sides of the football here.
Your special teams were special on Friday night. You had two long run backs, one by Gavin Galusha, another kick return by Caleb May, and then Caleb Yost, who was reliable last year as a ninth grader, but appears to have an even stronger foot this season. His kickoffs were terrific, 3 for 3 and point after touchdowns, 27-yard field goal. Special teams are a third of the game. Boy, that can be a big plus this season.
Absolutely, and that's something that we talk about all the time, that our special teams have to be great because truly they can lose you the game. And as you talk about the battle of field position, as you talk about the battle of time of possession, we started 2 drives there in the second half in plus territory because of our kick returns, which was awesome. To go into halftime down 7-3 instead of seeing a goose egg, I think that it was a big confidence boost for our guys too. Caleb is so reliable. He's really worked hard on his strength and just his ability and working with other kicking coaches this offseason. So he's done a great job to get better. We're going to be able to use him in a bunch of ways this year, and we trust him completely. But we spend a lot more time on our special teams this year. And week 1, it was definitely a positive. It definitely showed, but we have to continue to work hard in those things because, one special teams play can break a game. Pittston took a kick back against Mid-Valley, so, they're going to be looking to tighten things up on their end, but we have to continue to get better on our end as well.
The Bulldogs take on Mid-Valley tonight here at Crispin Field. Later in the show, CJ will tell us about the Spartans, but up next, it's the Bulldog Spotlight feature. You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio.
Start your summer adventures at Ken Pollock Ford during the Ford Summer Sales Event. Experience the joy of worry-free driving this summer with 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for up to 90 days on select models from America's top-selling brand at Ken Pollock Ford. Plus, get 2 years of complimentary maintenance on your new Ford vehicle. More road trips, less worries. Ken Pollock Ford, your locally owned 2024 Ford President's Award winner, Route 11 Berwick. An experience worth the drive. See dealer for complete details. Subject to credit approval. Offer expires 9/2/25.
We've all been there, faced with a physical setback. Whether you've suffered a sports injury that takes you out of the game, or your aches and pains are keeping you from doing what you love, we all want the same thing: to get your life back. Thankfully, you can trust the region's only nationally ranked orthopedic team to help get you there. At Lehigh Valley Orthopedic Institute, we turn setbacks into comebacks, one movement at a time. Lehigh Valley Orthopedic Institute. Comebacks begin here.
You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio. Here with the coach of the Berwick Bulldogs is Jim Doyle.
Tonight, the Dogs take on Mid-Valley here at Crispin Field. Last season was the first meeting ever between the two programs. Spartans beat Berwick 28-7 at Spartan Stadium in Troop. In our next segment, CJ will give us his scatter report on Mid-Valley, but now it's time for our weekly feature, Bulldog Spotlight. Tonight, the spotlight is on senior lineman Draven Geiger. Draven is 5'11", 275 pounds, starts at left guard. CJ, what are his attributes as an offensive lineman?
Draven's an incredibly smart player. Draven can diagnose blitzes, and if we need to change a blocking scheme at the line of scrimmage, he's a great communicator on the line of scrimmage, and, his experience helps him with that. But, just such a great teammate, such a selfless teammate. He had a quote saying that his favorite memory of football is kicking out the defensive end to let Tymir run through. And so that just kind of says everything that you need to know about Draven. Draven's loved by his teammates. He's a member of our marching band. He was out there. There's a funny picture of him standing there just kind of looking lost at halftime when he's playing his saxophone. And I mentioned it to him. I said, Dre, what's up with this picture? He said, Coach, I was thinking about running power during the halftime performance. So that's Draven, man. He's such a great kid. He's been the lead in our school play the past 2 years. He's multi-talented. The kids, like I said, absolutely love him. He'd do anything to help his team. His strength, has improved so much from last year to this year. He's really bought in on the weight room. He's a 600-pound squatter. Bench is almost 300 pounds. He's in our 1,000-pound club where 4 of our 5 offensive linemen are now in. And, those guys took it to him, especially in the second half, and dominated. And that's what we're looking, to do with our offensive line this year. And Draven's such a huge part in that. But great leader, for a senior to come out and play the way that he did, and for him to just have the attitude that he does. And, he's never satisfied. He just wants to continue to get better. And so I'm so proud of what Draven's done, how far he's come, and how this season is going to go for him.
You mentioned the fact that he's on the field at halftime with the marching band playing his sax, maybe the biggest sax player in the state.
No doubt.
Now, some coaches would have a problem with that. What's your feeling?
Yeah, but I want our kids to do as many things as they possibly can in high school. I want them to play as many sports as they possibly can. I want them to be in as many clubs and do as many things. And, you don't just have to be a football player here. And I know that I think it's important that he goes out. The band works just as hard as the football team. They have a camp, and they're out there for, 8 hours a day for 3 weeks before school starts. They have more practices than the football team. And so when Draven would leave here, he'd go right to band, and he cares about it, and it means something to him. So I would never want to take that away from him to say, you got to come in for 5 minutes and listen to us make a tweak on protection. He's smart enough that he could pick it up when he comes off the field from his performance, and Coach, I got it, and he gets right back out there and can play. So it never really changes his mindset. It doesn't get him out of the game, and so I'm proud of him for what he does, and he's got to continue to follow his passions.
In the Bulldog Spotlight, senior lineman Draven Geiger. Tonight, Draven and his Bulldog teammates take on Mid-Valley in the home opener here at Crispin Field. Up next, CJ will tell us what to expect from the Spartans offense. You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio.
Jim Doyle and the Berwick Bulldogs head coach CJ Curry. Brought to you by
Mason's Monogramming, overhead door of Berwick, Mayo Funeral Home, State Farm, Sean Black and Lori Powell, First Keystone Bank, Red's Roofing, Neighbor Fence Company, Wolfie's Automotive, ND Accounting and Consulting, J-Dog Junk Removal and Hauling of Berwick, Master Tech Automotive Services, Eco First Logistics, Ken Pollock, Journey Bank, Flick Brothers Electric in Bloomsburg, Alexander GMC of Hazleton, Papa Lou's Place, The Compression Shop, Cardinal Estate Planning, Chapin Oil, and Mark Nespoli of eXp Realty.
You'll only find the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio and streaming online at thisispopradio.com.
Hey, hometown fans. You know Journey Bank as your trusted local bank. But did you know we're also the biggest cheerleader for our community's youth? From athletes competing under the Friday night lights, to students excelling in the classroom, to talented teen stars singing center stage, we're investing in the future of our young people. At Journey Bank, we're committed to helping our kids score big in every aspect of life. Journey Bank, where dreams are nurtured and futures are built. Journey Bank, proud supporter of our local youth.
Summer's winding down, but the deals are heating up at Sunbury Motors Ford on North 4th Street in Sunbury. Get back to school in style. Save up to $6,800 on the fuel-efficient 2025 Ford Escape. Now priced as low as $24,975. Great for the morning carpool, but hurry, only a few left. Need more room for backpacks and gear? Pick from 46 new Ford Explorers, slashed up to $6,200, starting at just $36,935. Or go big with America's favorite over 60 new 2025 Ford F-150s, discounted up to $13,000, now starting at $45,544. And yes, 0% financing is available on many models. Race in the fall at Sunbury Motors Ford, North 4th Street in Sunbury, or visit sunburymotors.com.
You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio. Here with the coach of the Berwick Bulldogs is Jim Doyle.
Crispin Field, home to Berwick football since 1929, is the venue for tonight's home opener as the Dogs take on the Spartans of Mid-Valley. CJ, last season, Mid-Valley's offense was all about running back Jacob Lesher, who rushed for over 1,800 yards, including 244 against your team in that Spartans' 28-7 win in Troop. Lesher's now a Bloomsburg Husky. Brett Janowski, the son of head coach Stan Janowski, is in his second season as a starting quarterback. With Lesher gone, do you expect to see more passes from Mid-Valley than the 10 that he threw against your team last season?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. I'm watching just their first game of film against Pittston. They were pretty balanced in their attack. They can still run the football. Mason Vanaski, their tailback, he's a really, really tough kid. He's slippery, he's quick, he can break tackles, and he's got a great one cut. But, Janowski, I think that, building off of last year, just watching him, he throws the ball with more confidence. He's got a stronger arm. He's got a great wide receiver core to throw to, and their offensive coordinator is somebody who I knew from high school. His name's Gary Kroll. We're about the same age. He went to GAR when I went to Berwick, and he went to Wilkes when I went to Kings, so we've known each other for a long time. He's got some great stuff, some great concepts for Brett in their offense, and I think that with the size of their offensive line, if they're able to give Brett a pocket to throw, Brett's going to be lethal, and there was a couple missed throws that he had last week. I'm sure he's going to clean that up and clean the timing up for tonight. So our secondary has to be ready. It's a true test for our secondary. And, obviously, if you lose a guy like Lesher, that's hard to replace. Just like it's going to be hard to replace Tymir Wilkerson, just like it's going to be hard to replace J.J. Leonard, but, some of our other seniors. But I think that they do a really good job of keeping it balanced. And they run trick plays, they run motion, jet sweep, they trade, they bring guys across the formation. They have routes that try to confuse you with crossing concepts and mesh concepts and tailback out of the backfield. So with all of the things that they do, they're still an effective offense. And, watching it, if you could play the comparative score game, it doesn't really tell the story of last week for these guys. They lose the game 46-9, but there was a bunch of drop passes. There was a couple throws that were just a hair off. And as I'm looking through it in the first quarter, if they complete passes that were open, the score is 21-13 in the first quarter. And it's much more of a football game. And so these guys are high-powered and led by a quarterback. A lot of times you go as your quarterback goes, and they got a quarterback that can go. And he's got some weapons around him, and especially being the coach's son, they're on the same page. And that's a pretty special deal for them in his senior year. So they're going to be better on offense this week, and we know that.
Yeah, they really used their tight ends last season. Reese Williams and Jake Brody combined for 27 receptions and 3 touchdowns. They have to be a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Two very, very good football players on both sides of the ball. We took a look last year and said, man, Williams is one of the better players that they have. And, he was only a junior last year, and Bondi's a big body. He's great in the run game. He's great in the pass game. He's got reliable hands. He threw a fake punt last week against Pittston, and seeing him throw the ball over the middle, holy cow, I think they could use him at quarterback too. It was a strike about 20 yards down the field for a first down. And so they have playmakers all over the place, and these guys are going to play both ways. And we know that, the similar situation as Wareham, where, their upperclassmen are making a lot of contributions. And so we know that they're going to be tough, but those two tight ends are two huge parts offensively for sure.
Last week at this time, we were talking about how big Lake Lehman's offensive front was. Tackle to tackle, they averaged 256. Well, tonight, even bigger. Mid-Valley's 265.
Absolutely, yeah. Some giant guys up there up front, and Devin Hill, a starter last year. Mattioli, who's not one of their biggest guys, but he was a starter last year as well. But, just to watch these guys, and our defense knows, like, if these guys can stay low and get their hands on you, you're going to be blocked. So it's important for us to fire off the ball, stay low, use our hands, and get off blocks, because, if these guys get a hold of you, there's nothing that we're going to be able to do about that.
You talked earlier about missed tackles in the part of your defense a week ago. Obviously, you want to clean that up. Anything else?
Yeah, I think it's just being a little bit more effective and efficient, offensively, and then defensively, is making sure we're on the same page, secondary-wise. So, although Lake Lehman didn't throw the ball much, they were 4 for 4 throwing the football. The kid didn't throw an incompletion in his first start. So we see a much more veteran quarterback and a much more, pass-heavy offense. We see this week, I think that the game plan is going to be totally different, in Mid-Valley's approach than what Lake Lehman's approach was. And so our secondary has to make sure we don't have coverage breakdowns. Everybody's on the same page, and we're able to read the quarterback and make plays on the ball in the air, because this kid can get the ball down the field 50 to 55 yards. And one of our weaknesses, I think, was ball tracking in the air over this camp. And so it's something that we've really worked hard on the past couple weeks, and something that we need to be better at for sure.
Up next, CJ will tell us what he expects from the Spartans' defense. You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio.
Are your appliances feeling a little bit outdated? You're looking for the best deals in town? Well, look no further than Flick Brothers Electric, your go-to family-owned appliance paradise. Flick Brothers Electric has all the top-notch name-brand appliances you could ever dream of. Washers, dryers, refrigerators, dishwashers, microwave stoves. They even give free estimates on Fujitsu ductless air conditioner heat pump units. Flick Brothers Electric on Maple Lane, keeping Bloomsburg cool, clean, and cooking for over 65 years. Call them at 570-784-3444.
Hey guys, it's Ray and Pat from Blaze Alexander, Greater Hazelton on Route 93. What do we have?
What don't we have?
That's true. I was looking for 93, GMC, Rhymes. Every other car dealer, Rhymes, sounds really good. But if you're in the market for a car, we got them.
We sure do, and we're not like all the dealers, so why would we try to be?
That's true. That is true. So listen, if you want a good time, if you want a good selection, come see us. We're 508 Susquehanna Boulevard, right down the block from the Laurel Mall, or check them out online at
BlazeGMHazelton.com.
You're listening to the CJ Curry Show on Pop Radio. Here with the coach of the Berwick Bulldogs is Jim Doyle.
It's an interconference matchup tonight here at Crispin Field. Mid-Valley, representing the Lackawanna Football Conference, takes on Berwick, a member of the Wyoming Valley Conference. Mid-Valley returns 6 starters from last season's defense that was the best in the Lackawanna Conference Division II. CJ Spartans head coach Stan Yanowski lists his base defense as a 4-4. Is that what you saw for most of their opener against Pittston area?
Yes, absolutely. They're a 4-4, and then they'll play some variations of a 4-3 and a 4-2-5. But for the most part, their base is going to be a 4-4, and they're an attacking defense. Their 2 middle linebackers are 2 tough kids, and Rich Lepcho and Jake Bondi, 2 bigger bodies at inside linebacker, and they like to blitz the A-gap. 14, Pezanowski, he's a tough kid on the outside playing backer. And then you look at their defensive front, and it's all guys that contributed for them last year, with Williams and Cole Bryant and Maseko and Devin Hill again going both ways. But even seeing some of their subs, that they play an attacking, swarming style of defense, it makes it tough on the quarterbacks. But when we go spread, we tend to see it to turn into a little bit more of a 4-3 look. But that they have, if you have 2 great defensive ends, your defense tends to be pretty good. And these guys have 2 great defensive ends. I know that I think Coach Yanowski would probably say the same thing after watching their film. They have to be better at tackling too. They missed a bunch of tackles last week, which ended up in with Pittston being able to break off big plays and kind of score touchdowns where it should have been held to a 5, maybe 7, 10-yard gain. So I think that's something that they've worked very hard on this week, and so it's going to be a challenge for us offensively for sure.
You mentioned their defensive ends. One of them, number 9, Reese Williams, had 42 tackles, 6 tackles for loss a season ago. He's a force, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Reese is a great player, and so he was a great player last year. He was very good at taking on tackles, taking on tight ends, and keeping everything inside, letting other guys make the play, but also as as a pass rusher, we have to make sure we know where number 9 is at all times. But I think that that's something that our offense has been, thinking about all week, is the fact that we didn't score an offensive touchdown against these guys last week. And I think we had one positive offensive play in the first half last year against these guys when we played Mid-Valley. And so our only touchdown was a pick 6 on defense. So our offense has been locked in, focused all week on making sure that we could be more efficient and more effective against these guys.
A great philosopher once said that a football team improves the most from week 1 to week 2. If that's true concerning your team's offense, we've gone through Mid-Valley's defense and what you expect. What do you want to see tonight that maybe you didn't see as much last Friday?
And taking care of the ball, there's no doubt about that. I think that with our home run ability, I think Tymir just continuing to take care of the football, running hard, but being able to mix in our pass a little bit more. I think that one massive thing that we need to take care of from an offensive line and tight end perspective is just communication. I think that although we ran the ball effectively, we averaged probably 5 to 6 yards per carry last week, and we were able to score 3 touchdowns in the football game. Going back through the film, it was very sloppy with our communication, and there were times that we had numbers and we were just letting defensive linemen and linebackers run free and get a shot at Tymir, which he had 18 carries, and almost every time he had to make 2-3 guys miss before he got positive yards. And so I think that's the one big thing with our offense this week, aside from, kind of opening up our playbook a little bit more, is our effective communication, because we have the offensive line to do it. We have 2-3 great guys at tight end that can make it happen for us. And it's just making sure we're on the same page and communicating. And I think that we could be even more effective.
CJ, once again, thanks for your time. Good luck in getting win number 2.